Hi, this is Jennifer and welcome to an introduction to the cranial nerves. You have 12 pairs of cranial nerves and each nerve has a specialized role. We'll be going through each nerve in detail and the functions and the clinical indications of nerve dysfunction in this video. The olfactory nerve is a sensory nerve responsible for detecting different smells. This function is achieved by a network of nerve fibers which run from the olfactory epithelium to the olfactory bulb in the brain. The olfactory epithelium is a layer of cells that is located in the root of the nose. Neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's can create issues with smell. Olfactory nerve tumors can lead to anosmia, which is partial or full loss of smell. And another condition that can affect the sensation of smell is uncinate fits, or otherwise known as temporal lobe epilepsy, where the patient hallucinates disagreeable odors. Respiratory infections can also irritate and inflame the olfactory nerve, making it difficult to smell. A simple test that you can do to assess your patient's olfactory nerve function is to occlude each nostril and check if there are any asymmetrical differences. Cranial nerve 3, the optic nerve, is a vital component of the visual system, responsible for transmitting visual information from the eye to the brain. The optic nerve originates from the retina of each eye, carrying visual signals from the photoreceptor cells to the brain. This nerve consists of over 1 million individual nerve fibers bundled together. These fibers extend from the retina, converge at the optic disc, also known as the blind spot, and exit the eye to form the optic nerve. The primary function of the optic nerve is to transmit visual information from the eye to the brain. This information includes details about shapes, colors, and movements which the brain processes to create our visual perception. Let's explore how the optic nerve carries out its crucial role in visual signal transmission. Light first enters the eye through the cornea and the lens, forming an image on the retina. Photoreceptor cells in the retina convert this image into electrical signals, which are then sent through the optic nerve to the brain. At the base of the brain, the optic nerve fibers partially cross at a structure called the optic chiasm. This crossing allows information from both eyes to be integrated, creating a binocular vision, depth perception, and stereopsis. Moving on to the clinical aspects. Optic nerve disorders include damage or dysfunction to the optic nerve, which can then lead to the visual impairments, including conditions like glaucoma, optic neuritis, or compressive lesions. The term oculomotor can be broken down into oculo, which means related to the eye, and motor, which means movement. So this nerve is in charge of eye movement. The oculomotor nerve originates in the midbrain, specifically from the oculomotor nucleus and the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. It's unique because it contains both efferent and afferent fibers, which control the extraocular muscles responsible for moving our eyes. So let's trace the pathway. Originating in the midbrain, the oculomotor nerve exits the skull through the superior orbital fissure, branching out to supply motor fibers to the extraocular muscles. At these neuromuscular junctions, neurotransmitters like acetylcholine play a critical role in transmitting signals. Some examples of this nerve's functions include raising your eyelids up, helping you to focus your vision, controlling your pupils to constrict in response to light as well. Now let's dive into the muscles it innervates. The superior rectus muscle elevates the eye, the inferior rectus muscle depresses the eye, the medial rectus muscle moves the eye medially, the inferior oblique muscle elevates and laterally abducts the eye, the levator palpebrae superioris muscle elevates the upper eyelid, and the ciliary muscle controls the shape of the lens for accommodation. And all these muscles work together to allow for precise eye movement. Some ocular motility disorders include strabismus, which is to do with cross eyes. Cross eyes is strabismus, so this is the misalignment of the eyes. There's another condition also called diplopia, which is double vision. And there's also pupil abnormalities which can occur as a result of this cranial nerve dysfunction. And one of the pupil abnormalities is anoscoria, which is unequal pupil size, which can indicate that there's something wrong with the pupillary fibers of the oculomotor nerve. Cranial nerve 4, trochlear nerve, emerges from the dorsal aspect of the brainstem, from the trochlear nucleus in the midbrain. Unlike most other cranial nerves, it exists from the posterior side of the brainstem. What sets this trochlear nerve apart is its distinctive path. It crosses the midline within the brainstem, then emerges from the back of the brainstem before looping around the brainstem surface to reach the superior oblique muscle of the eye. Now let's explore the nerve's function. The trochlear nerve innervates the superior oblique muscle of the eye. This muscle plays a crucial role in downward and inward eye movements. It helps us to move our eyes downwards, making it essential for activities like reading and looking at objects on the ground. How does the trochlear nerve accomplish this task? It sends signals to the superior oblique muscle to coordinate precise eye movements. This allows us to track objects and adjust our gaze as needed. Moving on to the clinical aspects, trochlear nerve disorders can actually cause patients to have issues with looking downwards and inward eye movements. So it's quite important to assess your patient for any conditions such as head trauma, vascular problems, or tumors, which may indicate that there's been issues with the trochlear nerve. The trigeminal nerve, also known as the fifth cranial nerve, is a major sensory and motor nerve in the head. Its primary functions include sensation, so the trigeminal nerve provides sensory information from the face, head, and oral cavity, and it has three main branches. The first branch is the ophthalmic branch, responsible for sensation in the upper part of the face, including the forehead, scalp, and front of the head. The second branch is the maxillary branch, which conveys sensation from the middle part of the face, including the cheeks and upper lips. The third branch is the mandibular branch, which supplies sensation to the lower part of the face, including the jaw, lower lip, and chin. The trigeminal nerve also has a motor function that controls the muscles responsible for mastication, also known as chewing. The motor fibers are part of the mandibular branch and innervate the muscles involved in biting and chewing, such as the masseter muscle. The trigeminal nerve is also involved in various reflexes, including the corneal reflex, which is the blink reflex, and the jaw jerk reflex. These reflexes help to protect the eyes and maintain muscle tone in the jaw. Overall, the trigeminal nerve is vital for sensory perception in the face and oral cavity and plays a key role in motor control for chewing. Dysfunction or irritation of this nerve can lead to conditions such as trigeminal neuralgia, which is characterized by severe facial pain or issues with sensation and motor function in the head and face. Cranial nerve 6, the abducens nerve, it has a primary function to control the lateral rectus muscle of the eye, which is responsible for moving the eye outward. The abducens nerve originates from the pons, which is part of the brainstem, and it exits the brainstem at the pontomedullary junction. The abducens nerve consists of motor fibers that innervate the lateral rectus muscle of the eye, ensuring precise lateral eye movement. Its location within the brainstem allows it to play a crucial role in eye coordination. The primary function of the abducens nerve is to control the lateral rectus muscle. This muscle is responsible for moving the eye away from the nose, which is called abduction. This movement allows us to focus on objects located to the side. Let's explore how the abducens nerve carries out its function. It sends motor signals to the lateral rectus muscle, which results in the eye moving outward. This coordinated movement allows us to maintain binocular vision and track objects laterally. Dysfunction of this nerve can lead to issues like strabismus, which is cross eyes, and the abducens nerve is not only essential for eye movement, but it also serves as an integral part of neurological assessments. Cranial nerve 7, the facial nerve, plays a pivotal role in controlling many facial muscles. It's often described as nervus facialis in Latin. The facial nerve originates in the pons, a part of the brainstem, and extends into the facial muscles, making it a mixed nerve with both motor and sensory functions. It emerges from the brainstem and travels through the temporal bone before branching out to innervate the muscles of facial expression. The primary function of the facial nerve is to control the muscles of facial expression. It plays a significant role in taste sensation from the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, tear production, and salivary gland control. The most well-known function of the facial nerve is its motor function. It controls the muscles that allows us to smile, frown, blink, and make countless other facial expressions. The facial nerve carries sensory information from the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, contributing to our sense of taste. Facial nerve has a role in tear production as well, contributing to the maintenance of eye moisture. It also controls the submandibular and sublingual salivary glands, aiding in the production of saliva for digestion. Dysfunction of the facial nerve can lead to conditions such as Bell's palsy, which results in facial weakness or paralysis. Cranial nerve 8, the vestibular cochlear nerve, has dual functions. It serves both the auditory and vestibular systems. Originating within the inner ear, it carries sensory information from the cochlear and vestibular organs to the brainstem. The acoustic nerve comprises two primary components, the cochlear nerve and the vestibular nerve. The cochlear nerve is responsible for transmitting auditory information to the brain. In contrast, the vestibular nerve plays a critical role in maintaining balance and spatial orientation. The glossopherential nerve, cranial nerve number 9, is a mixed nerve with both sensory and motor functions. Its primary functions include sensory functions such as taste sensation, especially in perceiving sour and bitter taste, and general sensations such as detecting sensations like touch, temperature, and pain in these areas. It also has control of reflexes, so the glossopherential nerve is involved in initiating the swallowing reflex, and it relays sensory information from the back of the throat to the brainstem, triggering the coordinated swallowing response. This nerve is also responsible for the gag reflex, a protective reflex that helps foreign objects from entering the airway. It also has motor function, so the glossopherential nerve carries parasympathetic motor fibers to various glands in the throat, including the parotid salivary gland. Stimulation of these fibers increases salivary production and aids in the digestive process. Dysfunction can also result in issues with taste, swallowing, difficulties, and disruptions in reflexes and sensations in the oropharyngeal region. Cranial nerve 10, the vagus nerve, has a crucial role in the autonomic nervous system. When stimulated, it can slow down the heart rate, and it can be also used in patients with supraventricular tachycardia, which is very fast heart rate. The vagus nerve contains baroreceptors, which are specialized receptors that detect changes in the blood pressure. These receptors send signals to the brain to regulate blood pressure and maintain homeostasis. It also helps to control the rate and depth of respiration and is involved in reflexes such as coughing and swallowing. It promotes the production of stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes, and the contraction of smooth muscles in the digestive tract, facilitating digestion and absorption of nutrients. This nerve is also responsible for the gag reflex, which helps to protect the airway by causing coughing in response to objects in the throat that threaten to obstruct the airway. The vagus nerve is also involved in taste sensation at the back of the throat and helps to control muscles involved in speech and swallowing. Stimulation of the vagus nerve through a process known as vagus nerve stimulation has been used as a therapeutic approach for certain conditions like epilepsy and depression. Vagus nerve stimulation as a medical intervention is used for various conditions such as epilepsy, depression, and certain types of treatment-resistant seizures, and it involves the implantation of a device that provides electrical stimulation to the vagus nerve. Cranial nerve 11, the accessory nerve, primarily functions as a motor nerve. Its primary functions include motor functions and motor innervation of the neck muscles, shoulder and head movements as well. Dysfunction of the accessory nerve can result in weakness or atrophy of the sternocleidomastoid and trapezius muscles, leading to difficulties with head and shoulder movements and posture. And lastly, cranial nerve 12, the hypoglossal nerve, is responsible for the motor control of the muscles of the tongue. Its main functions include tongue movement, speech articulation, and swallowing. Clinical indications related to hypoglossal nerve may include hypoglossal nerve palsy, when the hypoglossal nerve is damaged or impaired, and it can result in hypoglossal nerve palsy. This condition can cause weakness or paralysis of the tongue muscles on one side, leading to difficulties in speaking, chewing, and swallowing. It can also lead to dysphagia, which is difficulty in swallowing, and speech impairment such as slurred speech or difficulty pronouncing certain words. This brings us to the end of our video on the introduction to cranial nerves. I really hope you enjoyed it and I hope it helped you. I wish you all the best in your exams and revision.